which was something like, do you think they might have, and I said, objection, conjecture.
Lawyered.
You just got lawyered.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
What, lawyering or conjecturing?
No, conjectures.
Yeah.
So many possibilities.
There's so many I mean, but we do have a pretty good idea based on...
Yeah. I don't know if you experienced this, Russ, but maybe I'm just reflecting my own personal mindset. But being a skeptic about information that you take in, I think is helpful.
Yes.
Not just
totally
grabbing
agree.
onto something going, oh, that's where it is. But, you know, is this accurate? Are there other sources that correlate what I'm seeing from here? Are there conditions that might have affected this and made it less than accurate?
Yeah, and that's why,
can I correct for those?
I did the document that was, subtitled like, what do we know and how do we know it?
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Where's that? Did you write that with the
that's
paper?
in the volume 1.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's the second document. There's the project overview, and then there's the one on the kind of the navigation challenge, and it's, what do we know and how do we know it?
One of the things I teach my interns is that lack of confidence can be a really great asset. You don't go charging in just all cocky and self-assured.
What is it? It's like the sign of getting older isn't knowing everything. It's knowing that you know nothing.
Right.
And admitting it.
You know nothing.
There's
nothing.
I think it's a Pablo Neruda poem that talks about traveling the world or exploring and getting to the point where you arrive where you started and knowing the place for the first time.
Oh, that's cool.
Whoa.
Oh, so poetic of you.
I thank Professor John Delaney at the University of Washington for that one. He's I like to say, an Irish poet with an oceanography problem.
Oh, that's cool. I like that notion.
A chief scientist I sail with, who at the end of each leg, we have a poetry night in the lounge or the library, whatever vessel we're on. And people bring pieces that they like, or some people have written something about the expedition. It's always quite fun.
That is cool. It's cool to see, too, like, so many people can be a part of the same thing and still walk away with these different perspectives.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's so true.
On that left side, is that also a large depression maybe that we're seeing?
Yeah, it could be similar to what Argus was just seeing. Look like a really long slumping area. We're getting close to... We have 2 locations for what target 36 could be at, so we're getting close to one of those that will be passing pretty close, which is good, on the starboard side.
Cool. Do you think we'll pass it in the next 22 minutes?
Yeah, probably.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure we're going to pass it on my watch.
Well, you're here for a little bit longer, right?
Till 4.
4.
We should go out of our way to warmly welcome our new interns on board, but this intern's going to get the warm welcome of a lifetime.
Who's that?
The intern who's not here right now.
Oh, right.
It'd be nice to finally have him on board.
I do like the variety. It's been nice to have
3
separate
video engineers on one watch.
You all bring something different too.
Yeah.
I think we go through the most tangents when you're here.
I would guarantee that.
Yeah.
I would absolutely guarantee that.
What are we looking at there, Dee Dee? Is that 36?
The previous image of 36.
And this is the one, is it the one you showed earlier with that sort of square?
Yeah. So at least I got 1 out of the 3 right that I chose.
Yeah, so that really shows, you know, when we're talking about those like straight lines and whatnot, that has kind of that big square. It's like a dual square almost at the top. Oh, that's the shadow around it. That bright yellow little
Yeah.
square and then the shadow surrounding it.
We will see if anything looks similar to that.
Oh, I'm so
Okay,
excited.
now that your mind has been refreshed. Goodbye.
Is it on the starboard or port side?
Port side. Did I say starboard before?
I
Port
don't know.
side. Yeah. See? We're all tired now. Oh, yeah, I'm still on. See? I don't even know if I'm on anymore.
All right, someone wants to know, how's the food on the boat?
It's
Get asked that a lot.
Oh, if you like cheese ravioli, it is heavenly. I think I've had cheese ravioli like
Did you do the
every meal.
quesadilla with dinner last night?
No, because they had the cheesy mac and cheese.
Right.
Yes. I'm telling you, this pasta is just
Yeah.
dangerously delicious.
I love starches, so the fact that they have like rice and couscous.
I know.
The
Oh
couscous
gosh.
here I love.
Yeah, and there's usually something like 4 different entrees.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which for, you know, we have 47 people on board, but a third of those are usually on watch, but they'll eat. A third are asleep. So to maintain that variety
Yeah.
for 180 days.
And all of the snacks have been really good. That cheesecake was. I had just a bite. I could only give myself a bite. And it was so good.
Fresh chocolate chip cookies.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
First day, that was great.
Okay, have you guys discovered the cookie warmer on the toaster?
No.
Because this is the most brilliant thing I've ever seen in my entire life. And there's a little bit of debate as to if it is in fact a cookie warmer or
Is it just
It
a
is
symbol?
toast
a
seatbelt.
toast seatbelt.
It is not a toast seatbelt. Get out of here.
More like a
Your
toast
toast seatbelt.
guardrail, like making sure the
Propaganda.
toast doesn't.
I stay away from that toaster because people have had bad experiences
brand
with
new.
that.
It's a great
Oh,
toaster.
really?
It's,
It's-
not the toaster. It's
The-
a toaster.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. There was a toaster before that you either got a piece of bread out of it or you got a fire alarm.
Yeah.
No, I think I'm gonna take a picture of the serial number of this toaster
Oh,
and have it waiting on my doorstep when I
Right.
get home.
Yeah, the old one wasn't a toaster. It was a muster.
yeah.
I never burned toast in that thing.
Really?
No, I didn't either.
I know somebody who has.
Yeah, I may or may not have been on board for that, but I was not the one who burned the toast.
That was my roommate.
Toasty. Good old Toasty. How's he been doing? Or she? Well, he.
So when I said it was going to be on the port, it could actually be the port or starboard. We have a little discrepancy in the coordinates that were given, so keep your eyes out on both sides.
Eyes are out.
How far is it from vehicle? Like perpendicularly? So the R might be Out of range.
Who's calibrating the IPOD sensor? Oh, thanks. Readings look correct.
So target 36, which we are anticipating passing over here pretty quickly, is one of the potential targets that we marked earlier. So we have just completed the last line of the southern area of the survey, and we're transiting to the northern part. And then en route to that northern part, we're having Argus come back again over a couple of those targets on the way to at a different angle to sort of give us a new image or an additional image to what we have before. So 36 was one that was marked. It has this sort of bright yellow square and then what looks to be a shadow around it. And so this additional angle will help us to see, if that is in fact the case and if this is a point that's worth exploring in greater detail with Argus's camera and ultimately with Hercules. Why can't we see the sea floor? That's because Argus is about 20 meters above the sea floor.
About 15, 16, somewhere in there.
Is that the right range?
And that's so we can get the side scan sensors up off the sea floor so they can see out that distance.
And so we have in some, right now it looks like it's kind of a muddy sediment bottom, but when there are rocks, mostly basalt and carbonate rocks, you can kind of see those poking out and sitting on the seafloor, which does bode well for searching for the Samoan clipper. It means that any debris is likely uncovered from sediment.
Yeah, they could have been the. Yeah.
Does the Nautilus ever travel alongside with the Okeanos? I know that we do a bit of collaborative work, right? I mean, there's a lot of correspondence.
We have their team sail with us. We've sailed with them. There's good pollination between the teams.
Is that 36 there on the port side?
Sorry, I was muted. I'm going to go ahead and save this, just so I'll save the upper looks better, so Mike can compare it as well.
Yes.
So starboard side at about 55 meters. And we're just going to continue on with the numbers, naming, and just cross-reference this.
Right.
So it should be target 49? Target 49.
And this...
Port side 60 meters?
Yeah.
And this is directly over where 36 was last marked? This
Correct.
Is the same site?
Yeah.
But to answer the question, Oceanus Explorer NOAA ship R337 is based out of Quonset, Rhode Island. and the exploration vessel Nautilus is based out of the port of Los Angeles. So we haven't really been in the same region as them at the same time.
Where's
We
the Okeanos
operated.
flagged? Where's the Okeanos flagged? You know?
Where?
It's in the ocean? Oh. So it has to be flagged in this
Yeah,
case.
it's an
To be a
American
NOAA
ship. It's a U.S. government vessel.
So
Yeah, it's the former U.S. Navy ship Capable. They operate inside the United States Economic Exclusion Zone, which is a very, very, very large area. You know, half of all of the territory of the United States is underwater, so that gives them a lot of area to work within. Whereas the Ocean Exploration Trust is interested in the world's oceans, and so we're not confined to those borders.
And Okeanos, because they port on the East Coast, they tend to do a little bit more work in the Atlantic, whereas OT
but they were based out of Hawaii for several years, and they're doing work in the Atlantic right now. They're back in the Atlantic. They've done work down in Puerto Rico, which is the U.S. territory. I've done work in the Gulf of Mexico, significant work in the Gulf of Mexico. Discovered the Monterey A shipwrecks, contributed strongly to the, the NRDC, National Resource Damage Assessment after the Deepwater Horizon event. It's America's only ship for ocean exploration, government ship. And similarly equipped to the Nautilus in some regards. Our operation modes are quite different, and operating seasons are quite different. But yeah, they've just wrapped up an expedition, I think yesterday maybe, or a couple days ago.
Yeah.
As I understand it, they don't have the same capacity for like visiting scientists on board.
Yeah, there are definitely differences between the vessels, and there's differences between how they operate. Probably most significantly in sampling and collection. That's probably the biggest area of difference.
That was on the port side, wasn't it?
I know your guys' watch is about over, so better look up Turkey on the map or hide for the next month.
I'll be watching you.
I'd be afraid of Suna. I wouldn't mess with her.
Hey, I knew exactly what I was saying. I have nothing to hide from her. I have so much respect for Suna that I knew that she would educate me. I've traveled enough to admit my ignorance.
All right, this one's up for the control van. What do you prefer investigating, archaeology or geology?
Are we
It's a good one.
talking about finding it or once we found it?
Maybe both.
Because archaeology, you typically have, the archaeological process, or I'm sorry, the geological processes in the ocean are not defined by any sense, but you have an idea of where you're going. Is that a subduction zone? Is that a rift? Is that, so you kind of know what you're going to look at. Whereas this is, who knows? There's a lot more mystery, I think, in the archaeology, and a lot more of a puzzle. And I think a lot of the puzzle in the geology is the weeks and months and years after we've gone down and seen and imaged and collected so many samples for the scientists.
Yeah, I think they're both interesting. With archaeology, you kind of have this emotional and mental connection, right? Because it tends to be human in nature, but then geology sort of shares the incredible capacity that the Earth has in doing things that we didn't even know.
Right.
Processes that didn't even exist before, whatever, maybe you found it, so.
I always enjoy working in hydrothermal vent fields.
Yes, they're so cool. They're so cool. Anyone else? Archaeology or geology or another ology?
Well, I'm going to say archaeology, but that's not really a big surprise to anybody, I don't think.
You might have a fixed answer.
Yes, yeah.
I'll throw some contrast to that. I like geology because I find that it's more fun to fly around in with the vehicle. Archaeology is cool to look at and everything, and but the actual navigational puzzles and actively flying around the geology, I think, takes the cake for me.
Yeah.
Have you flown a shipwreck yet?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, that's Coast Trader.
Because those can be hairy.
Those are tangly. Those are tangly.
Right.
But those are more like boring or scary versus geology, which is like kind of fun.
Why do we call it
Party.
fly and not swim?
Ooh. Herc didn't pass enough levels of swimming lessons to,
Right.
to classify.
I haven't come up with a better term for down-looking still images taken from an ROV. It's just aerial photography.
Aerial photography. Yeah.
Hydroaerial? Yeah.
Hydrol? No, yeah.
Aerial.
Hydrologic.
Water reel? Yeah, nope. Doesn't exist.
Aerial hydro. You can't really just say like hydro photography. Hey, we've got some newcomers coming
Hey.
in. We've got the 12 to 4 crew rolling in here. So our 8 to 4 crew can get some sleep. Or wait, what are we? 8 to 12 watch?
Yeah,
Something like that.
I'm the wrong person to ask.
What's this up here on the port side? Just a rock.
Might be what we're looking at. No, that's, how far off is that? 40 meters? No, it's not that.
"3D movement is flying."
Yeah, see? That's about, yeah.
Yeah.
Swimming is typically not
But isn't
involving depth. Ah, will do.
because you can't really say we're diving because we dive in other ways.
Right.
All right, well, I see Brian hanging out around the corner, so I'm going to take off here. Have fun, everyone. Enjoy your night.
No go on that, Dan. But I can help you understand that later.
everybody. This is Brian and the rest of the midnight to 4 a.m. watch. Looking forward to continuing to explore with you all today, or tonight, depending on where you're at.
Welcome, new watch, whatever watch you are. I have to make some changes to the intercom so our audio sounds correct.
Please.
Back row checking in.
Hey, back row.
12 to 4, best watch.
Yeah.
We're on.
Wait a minute, what about the one before this?
Oh,
They're then not the best watch.
Wait, but I'm part of they.
You are not the best watch.
You shall not pass.
We'll
Thank
annex
you. Anyways.
come on now. Takes a village to make a team.
Megan, what do you think of the
You're
target
not the
on
best watch either.
Back row, if I can just do a quick overview of what we're about to do. We just passed through this cluster down here in the bottom right corner of High Pack. The ship's way up here. We are back by about 600 meters as per usual. The next cluster, as I understand it, is the 31 and 30 targets up here. So I'm going to change ship course to go through that. And then once Argus passes through, I'll just back down the ship and hopefully we all end up on line 16 around the same time and we can proceed. Does that sound all right?
Great, thank you.
Good.
Have we strafed the canoe yet?
No, I don't know if that was part of it.
I
Really?
don't think that was part of it, no.
I think kayak is more to the
Or
east.
kayak,
Yeah.
So
sorry.
are we starting at the northernmost line?
Nope.
No.
We're starting at the
Southernmost of the northern
yeah,
section we have
Good.
left.
That's
Yep.
what I was hoping for.
Yep.
Higher
Yeah.
probability there.
Okay,
Thanks, Randy.
bridge nav.
Rock.
Can we change course? Speed still remains the same, but we'll head to the selected target, which is bearing approximately 315. Thank you.
So they didn't get any visuals. They just passed a big cluster of targets. No visuals on the last one.
Yeah, we visualized them.
Oh, just rocks.
They're definitely rocks.
34, 37,
Not even a rock,
38.
just a rock.
It was
Rock.
not even that. Can I have the mouse?
The excitement in
Yeah,
your
this
voice
is the
is
cluster that we
really
that we
infectious.
just went over, and so it seems like there's a little tiny bit of an offset between the targets recorded in either EdgeTech or SonarWiz and ours, which is not unreasonable given given a lot of the depth, USPL offsets, etc., and SonarWiz or the side scan sonar in general. So I kind of picked a point, a line that tracks between, hopefully. So if you look here, we have our target 30 and then the target 30 given. There's a bit of an offset. Same with 30 and 31 are actually pretty close to each other.
Cool.
A lot of that has to do with when we're dropping the target, how far Argus has passed, and USPL offsets, etc. So the line will hopefully be going through the best fit, and we'll hit it regardless of which one of those targets is correct. But
Awesome.
Great.
we'll keep an eye out. It's hard to say though, because as we're changing course, Argus will swing a bit, and hopefully it goes over the way we want to go. But habit stance on the way, we should pass over this 1056-8, also the funny tall target that we decided to not make.
Excellent.
A target out of, and for some reason I labeled it anyway.
I am really curious what that is, because I do not remember that being a thing.
Funny tall target.
8, I just looked at again, and it wasn't.
Not spectacular.
Oh, it's not exciting at all.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless that's a. Yeah. No. Okay, well, we will see.
Yeah, the biggest fear in doing this is probably that you see it as a target and you self-eliminate it without grabbing it.
Yeah.
We also might cover this number 17 again.
Yeah, that's what I also looked at that one in 18.
But yeah,
and they
depends on where Argus swings and
so this
how do they
is
look?
17, which
17 is written down as 2 circular objects with shadow in the middle, quote, might be rocks.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say
I say
that's
rocks
a,
are like
yeah.
Applies to most of them.
18,
and then,
40 meters in length,
Okay.
linear and blocky, also could be rocks. And then,
yeah, I don't even know if those need the qualifiers.
Yeah.
yeah. That's just what's written down here. 08, I don't think we had comments for originally.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Well, what's 30 and 31 look like if we...
30 and 31 are Michael's targets, and they have some weird lines in them, and that's why.
Yeah, 30 is 3 rounded objects. 31 is blocky with 4 rectangular shapes.
Michael was looking at this right here.
Yeah.
And also, yeah.
Oh, was this the one that they had sticking up that they thought looked like propeller blades?
Yeah.
Yeah, but they look like
Yeah, I think.
Who's saying that?
I mean,
all
I
three of them
need to
stick
hear it
straight
again
up.
from Michael, but I
And
think he
then
was like, this
this-
isn't as convincing anymore.
Yeah, this one has some lineage in here, but then there's also these weird shadows here.
Well, we will investigate.
Got a pretty wide audience joining us. Barbados, Belgium, Israel, Mexico, Norway, Philippines, Russia, Sweden, Australia, Switzerland, Germany, Finland, Netherlands, the UK, and American Samoa.
Oh.
Yay.
Yeah, we're right in your backyard.
I'm sorry, say again? From the ship? We do from the MRU. In real time, the best graphical display would be on the ship's multi-beams acquisition software. But otherwise,
It's hidden behind there.
it's
Or
on a
is it
different screen actually.
It's on that one.
Nope, different one altogether. Yeah, but that's so it's only based on where the MRU is. So
Summer, are
it's in
you
the sonar
on
room.
SPL?
Yeah.
No,
Negative.
she's not.
Sorry, I was just asking.
Yeah, so that's only
Questions.
on the. It's in the sonar room, so you'd have to. Are you interested as far as where the shiv is?
I just want to know like how this so the swell picked up and what it was before, and keeping an eye on that. It's not a big deal. I was just curious to see if there's a readout for that because it feels
Let me
like a little
see.
swelly today.
I wonder if I just pull it up.
It
Let
was
me think
windy.
about this.
Hevelator.
So it was
That's what
windy
she
out there.
wants. The
Wind's not
Hevelator.
actually. Wind dropped off. It's only blowing.
Usually
Under
doesn't
10
get about
knots.
it be
Let's
at
turn
night.
that on. I think so.
But the swell seems to have
not
picked
there.
up. I just,
On right.
or maybe
9
we're just at a
knots.
weird angle.
I'm
Rolling,
gonna take that away for a second.
Rolling, rolling.
rolling,
I
rolling.
never feel that.
So the TRU is not on, but
So
this
we've
should
got
still run.
many a country
I think.
tuning in.
Yeah.
Global audience.
So
That's awesome.
Hello
It's
to you,
almost
Israel.
always either, I was just saying this last one, Norway or Netherlands.
Yeah, we
Always
have.
somebody there.
There's a chance that the
We've got both.
Yeah.
multi-beam TRU needs to be on to read this, but maybe not.
The colleague of mine got his master's in Bergen, Norway.
Mm. What was it in?
He is a geologist.
Nice. Does he? One might say he rocks.
Yeah.
Wouldn't be for the DP is not really. Doesn't really need that.
10 years
That's
ago.
what. That's
I
a
think.
pretty normal reaction for my jokes. Dad jokes aplenty.
Good morning, everyone. The back row wants to get their 2 cents in here. This is the midnight to 4 a.m. shift, and we are on on the Samoan clipper search off the coast of American Samoa. And we are looking for an S-42B flying clipper that crashed on the morning of January 11th, 1938 with Captain Music at the controls and a crew of 6. Crew all extremely experienced and good health. The plane had been serviced and they were headed on the 3rd round trip of their Trans-Pacific airmail cargo route, which was from Honolulu to Kingman Reef to Pago Pago to Auckland, New Zealand. So this is the first leg of their 3rd trip. Pan Am was trying to shrink the world with their transoceanic flights, and
best I can do in a pinch.
This loss was a huge loss for the
I had a
world
boat,
of
one with a
aviation
boat
and
icon
Pan Am.
on it, but it won't work on that phone.
Where was Captain living? Where was he based out of when he was doing these legs?
He moved all over the place, but he was based then out of Honolulu, I believe.
I have a question. So we know that it would have taken 12 hours to go from Apia or here to Auckland. How long does that take today?
I just did that 3 hours, 45 minutes.
Yeah, it was just under 4 hours.
Wow.
So here's a question for the team. What was their flying speed?
I was on an A330.
No, it was 188
knots?
miles per hour.
Cool.
That's pretty fast for the 30s.
We came over from Apia on a Twin Otter at, I think we were doing about 120 knots.
It was a pretty fun takeoff.
Yeah.
Slightly unnerving if you haven't done that before.
STOL. Oh, really? No.
That's the kind of takeoff you have to do on a short field. You just rev the engines up to full and jam your brakes down, and then when the engines are full, and you just
happy.
let go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were both holding the brakes.
Yeah.
The team effort. It was really beautiful when we got up there, though.
Yes.
Close to the mountains.
Yeah.
So everybody that was sitting in the middle seat was reaching across their seatmate to get in the window to take a picture.
Yeah, I was taking cameras from people and grabbing some shots. Just beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, Devin reached across for me. I was like, ooh, I'm on the water side.
I think I
looked across.
I was really fortunate I had my very nice earplugs with me. It must have been loud in there.
It was loud.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anybody's doing a time speed calculation, 188 miles per hour is their high speed at 7,000 feet, but cruising speed is 163 miles per hour.
I would imagine that on a leg like that, you know, without having forward-looking weather radar, that they're kind of dodging around. They're not just setting a bearing and sticking to it, right? I mean, if they come up on a thundercloud or
And don't forget, they didn't have sophisticated navigating instruments. They had sextants.
Right.
The trip was supposed to take 12.6 hours, but they were fueled for over 14, about 14 hours.
So there were 7 people total on the plane.
Correct.
Was it just one huge cockpit, or?
I think it was 4 or 5 compartments, and some people were in the back.
They had A, B, C, D, E compartments, and the cockpit.
With watertight hatches between them?
9.
Yeah.
Well, there were 9 watertight doors.
Doors,
but not
yeah.
9 compartments.
Okay.
There were 5 doors and hatches.
That's a long run for one pilot. They must have been shifting off. They just had 2 pilots on board? Yeah.
Yes.
Nowadays,
well, they had a junior officer as well, so there
Okay.
were probably 3 who were qualified.
So they were just maybe rotating in and out.
Yeah.
But they really worked hard. I mean, they didn't have much ground time at all on these legs, and in between these long flights they didn't either, because they didn't have as many qualified pilots as they needed.
And that was physical flying. That was flying by cable. I wonder if they even had autopilot.
If they had autopilot?
Yeah. Probably not.
I doubt it.
My guess is no.
No.
Sophisticated instrumentation for that.
Yeah.
And if they still had chart tables.
They had a chart table.
You gotta figure. But the Turing machine didn't happen until World War II.
Yeah.
Interesting thing about Alan Turing, he's on British currency now.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a huge step.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah, he did not get treated very well post-war and during the war. I was in Germany, and they had this amazing technology museum, and they had this really nice section devoted to him and his accomplishments and the Turing machine. Speaking of processing power, we have a question coming in about post-processing. Is that something that requires kind of a pretty powerful computer to be able to do all that, or?
And are we doing that on board?
We are doing that on board, and as far as I understand it, it's being done on a laptop, so I think, you know.
Nothing too crazy.
Could be a beefy
crazy.
Alienware thing, but.
Could be, could not be.
It's not a very data or resource-intensive program, if that's what the question was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some of the other, like a multi-beam processing software is, but side scan is reasonable.
You need a pretty good like graphics card though, right? To like render it and keep up with it?
No.
Oh. Cool.
Not really. You're not viewing it in 3D. There's not a lot. It's just.
I guess
once it's created, once it runs through its processing, it's there.
It's the 3D aspect I was thinking about, but yeah.
Will the post-processing take these transects that we're doing and marry them together? Does it know one from the other? Or do you just get a bunch of ribbons?
It will depend on the quality of your navigational data. How well things are overlaying with each other.
Right.
Objects at different.
Because we're really not trying to do any overlap, right?
Yeah, there's going to be a bit of overlap. So we are running 200-meter spacing, and on our
right. So we're 120 plus.
Yeah, 120 plus, but that's a lot of that is kind of washed out. Yeah, and noisy. So the solution could be to just cut that, or kind of
use best.
Yeah, use what's ever best there. So hopefully no gaps. It doesn't. I can't think of a time where we would have any gaps, but yeah.
So I have a question. Why do they traditionally use side scan SSS sonar as opposed to a MBES multi-beam echo sounder when they're doing looking for a structure on the seabed?
Well, a lot of it has to do with just the fact that you can get a unique shadow and the backscatter element of it, so the reflective return. You can use multi-beam. It's typically more expensive and would be mounted on an AUV or an ROV to get the resolution you would need.
Right.
Whereas a towfish and side scan is going to be a lot less expensive to run, and you just kind of run it off the back. So I think it's cost. You could, if you were doing an AUV survey, with a multi-beam, it would conceivably yield results that you would be able to identify a wreck from.
But I was,
but the shadow is not going to be as apparent when you grid it, or when you're you'd have to comb through like the three-dimensional point data itself rather than the gridded product. Whereas the side scan is just kind of like you are there and you're seeing the shadow of a hopefully clearly man-made object versus not. Someone could correct me on that if there are other reasons, but those I think would be the primary, would be kind of cost.
So the Remus 100 has, it's got both on it.
Yeah.
It's the, that's the one that Woods Hole built, and then they kind of spun off, and Kongsberg picked it up. They're now pumping them out as production units.
Well, we should go to Pongo and pick a couple of them up.
We can. You just go to your local Kongsberg 7-Eleven, and you can rent one by the day. So
this would be a completely different search if we were looking for a plane 12 miles off of LAX.
But I was just curious why, like that machine has both the side scan and the multi-beam in it. Why is one better than the other for?
Well,
I've
picked
go faster with one, or
I've picked shipwrecks out of both side scan and multi-beam, and it's a bit easier in side scan. So
because of the shadows.
Yeah, because of the shadows. But that's not to say that it's I don't think that's the driving factor. I think it's mainly. I would think that multi-beam units cost way more than side scan units.
The team on Petrol chose side scan on their Lexington hunt.
What's that?
When Petrol went looking for the Lexington, they chose to use side scan as their tool of preference. That and Lonnie's that long.
That was helpful.
Yeah, that was helpful too.
But side scan isn't going to really produce the kind of map that a multi-beam.
Yeah, it seems like you do side scan to a big wide area to really see the obvious objects, and then you'd go back like with a multi-beam to really get a fine-tuned map of it.
Yeah, if you wanted a map. If you're just picking up objects, this is going to be the simplest way, I think.
And you can go faster with the side scan. Like on this particular machine will do either 2 knots or 8 knots. It's got 2 speeds.
Right.
Only if you have flames on the side.
Yeah. Accurate.
Can you go faster?
Oh yeah.
And stickers.
Yeah, it depends on the ping rate of
Should have
both.
put those on the fin,
Canard.
man. That would have been a sticker to put on there.
I know, we missed our opportunity. So this survey would have gone much better with a sticker on that fin.
Flame sticker. We'd be going at least 2 knots right now.
Hopefully some of the people who have been writing in over the last couple of years saying, why don't we go flying that Malaysian Airlines jetliner? This kind of tells you the speed at which we can look, at 100-meter wide swaths.
And that
200-meter wide swaths,
is
sorry.
even deeper, is it not?
I don't know.
I think it's very deep, yeah, the area that was searched. That's part of it. A lot of that, the multi-beam data, both AV and shipboard that was collected in that area as kind of part of that search was donated to,
Project 2030?
Yeah, added to the
RDR?
The global Project Seabed 2030 has, the highest res mapping data we have in those areas, but it's a lot of it is the area that it could be in and the depth that it's in, and even if the plane was fully intact and not in pieces, to find it, you wouldn't really be able to locate it with shipboard multi-beam. You'd have to have higher res AUV maps, and that's just so time consuming.
There's some new tech they've developed on that towfish for that thing.
A lot came out of that, but
yeah, the whole IVA 3D suite and the instruments they're using to feed that is
So we have a question
Pretty
about
awesome.
why not use the ship's multi-beam at the same time? And
yeah, we have a couple reasons for that. One would be operating both would probably, the frequencies would interfere, but the most, a better answer is we're not going at a speed that would be conducive to that. And then the third answer is it's already been mapped by the Okeanos Explorer.
I would have chosen that as my first answer.
So Okeanos was out here as part of the Capstone projects funded by NOAA that kind of did a lot of remote Pacific Islands work, and they did a grid area specifically for the Samoan Clipper. But the size of the aircraft and the depth, it was unlikely that it could be resolved with shipboard multibeam, and that was proven to be correct. They could not find anything either in the bathymetry nor the backscatter that that kind of supported the
so
location search.
How many pixels would the Samoan Clipper be if it was intact? Yeah, like 2?
Yeah, this got down to 25 meter cells. Yeah, but you can get a higher resolution of backscatter, but even still, you're looking at rocks and a slightly brighter cell because it's not the entire cell that you're seeing, you know.
so for those of you joining, we are heading towards the northern half of our search area. And as we head up there to knock out the last 5 passes, we're going to pass over some of our dive targets, which will hopefully not be rocks.
So Renato, do multi-beam and side-scan sonar give similar resolutions?
That depends on a lot of factors.
Okay.
I think, well, probably I should describe one or both of them. We've talked a bit about side scan, about how it works. For viewers that are watching, we have, we're emitting acoustic pulses from either side of Argus, and that kind of is reflected off of the seafloor. And if there's an object that would cast a shadow, say a rock, or in this case, hopefully a plane, you would not receive sound from behind it. So not only are you seeing the target itself, but also the shadow it makes. Whereas with multibeam being top down, you would have to then later view it in 3D to see the shape of it off of the seafloor. Multibeam sonar, I'll talk about it from the terms of shipboard multibeam sonar, although the principle can be applied to a multibeam sonar mounted on an ROV or an AUV, an autonomous underwater vehicle. But the main principle is single beam sonar is you are able to send an acoustic pulse from the surface, usually in a hull mounted transducer, and that sound propagates through the water column down to the seafloor and is reflected back. So if you think about it in terms of this point source of sound from the hull, the shape of that sound as it pulses through the water column is kind of like a cone, the ship being the top of the cone and the seafloor being the base, a circular base. So what you're hearing back is reflection from that within that entire circle. That's single beam sonar. Multi-beam is brilliant and unique in that it uses an array of transducers rather than a singular one. It uses a transmit array, which is a long track of the ship, which is a bunch of transducers in a line along the ship's hull, and a receive array that is a beam of the ship, so it's kind of 90 degrees to that. It's shaped like a T. We have one mounted on the bottom of our ship. So if you're ever at a concert and you look up and you see speakers in front of you, a lot of times they're oriented vertically. You'll see on either side of the stage there's speakers that are lined up top to bottom in a vertical array. But the reason they're doing this, you would think well, maybe I should stand directly under them because that's where the sound's going to be coming from. But the way that the wavelengths of each of those speakers are interfering with each other is that if you, let's say you have one speaker, it emits that cone towards you in a circle. If you have two speakers, one on top of each other, it actually compresses that cone into an oval that's wider than it is tall if you're looking at it, like in this concert example. So you get a bunch of them, and it's actually a really thin oval. So it's actually perpendicular to the array of speakers. That's where the sound's being emitted in a wide array. So that's that's what multi-beam sonar is doing. Is that along track, you've got a bunch of transducers. They're emitting sound, and the way that they interact with each other, we call it beam forming. So it's forming that beam from being a circle into a really super thin oval, and it's very wide. So that's how we get, that's how we're emitting sound onto the seafloor in such a wide swath, as we call it. Now the receiver array is mounted perpendicular to that for a reason. It's listening only in the opposite. So it's listening to a very thin oval along the ship's direction. So on the seafloor, you're sending sound down in a wide array, and you're listening in a long array, and you get a single pinpoint directly below the ship, and you know exactly that's the depth in that little tiny point. But that's only one spot. So we use why is the term evading me right now? But we can direct the beam of the receiving array to listen in different ways using math and physics. We can listen to it synthetically at different points within that thin transmit array. So we can listen to, in our example, 432 times across, or if we're doing dual swath, double that, 864.
Wow.
So we're getting individual pings from across our seafloor. And now you imagine, now you add the element of time, and in this case speed, so you're going across the ground, and every single ping you're getting all of those individual three-dimensional points, XYZ, and you do it again and again and again and again, depending on your water depth, how often you can ping, and you've now got a million points of in XYZ space. Usually we then normalize that to a grid pattern. In this case, we have a 25-meter grid spacing. And the other thing that we've been talking about is backscatter. So backscatter is the intensity of the return. Not only is it receiving those XYZ points of the based on time of flight of the sound through the water column bouncing back up, it also knows how loud it received that sound. So if you hit something like mud, a lot of that sound is going to be absorbed. And if you hit something like a rock or an airplane or something like that, something hard, something metal, it's going to reflect, the sound's going to reflect back stronger. So we can get almost like a heat map